All right, now that you know what our tracking deployment is all about, let's get started actually implementing it. And the first step is to actually set up our ActiveCampaign API and then connect it to our Google Cloud function. So let's do this right now.
All right, to start to set this up, we need to do following steps here. And we're going to start out with the Google Cloud function to set this up and test it. So what we will need in order to set up a Google Cloud function is access to the Google Cloud console for the GCP, so the Google Cloud Platform services. And you can go over to cloud.google.com and then you can log in with your Google account or sign up to a new account. Now you get $300 of free credits if you are new to this, and we will need to put in a credit card for our billing account in order for us to utilize our cloud functions correctly, because we will be sending data from an unauthenticated endpoint into the system, and therefore we will need to put in a credit card in order to enable this in our Google Cloud functions. So head over to cloud.google.com and then you can go to the Google Cloud console, and here you will be greeted with all of your different projects. So if you are new to this, you will need to create a project that will look like this, and you can really name it whatever you want. For example, ActiveCampaign Event Tracking, and then you can create this, and then you have a Google Cloud product or project, and under billing right here, you will be able to then connect this to a billing account. If you don't have one yet, you can set one up. You'll get your $300 of credit, but make sure to create actually a billing account with a credit card in the background, because we will be utilizing the unauthenticated part of Cloud Functions, and we can't be doing this if we don't have that set up. Cloud Functions is pretty cost effective, so with the thousands of events that I send per month, I pay a few cents per month in order to execute them. Obviously, if you have a much larger site with millions and millions of requests, then this might go up, but still I would say very cost effective, definitely way cheaper than something like Zapier. Okay, so once we have that set up, we can go and ahead and build our cloud functions. So you will find the cloud functions in this menu down below here. You can always click on this pin icon in order to put it to the top here, because there are a lot of services from Google. And then we are entering the Google Cloud Functions menu. We can create our first function right here, and we can give this a basic name, just like, let's say, event tracking ActiveCampaign. So we know what it later is, and also this will go into our URL. You can leave all the other things untouched, and except of here, allow unauthenticated invocations. So that needs to be ticked. We can also choose the region. So if you wanted to have faster requests, you want to obviously go with something that is nearer to your location. So you can change this around, definitely. And then let's go also with require HTTPS. Let's save this, and then we go on to next. So this will give us our menu right here where we need to enter some code. But first we need to also enable the Cloud Build API. This is something we need for Cloud Functions to run. So we go to Enable API. This will open up a new window. Let's click on Enable here. This will take a little second. So let's continue here and put in our index.js file. You will find this in the GitHub repository. Here's the index.js. Let's go to raw and copy this here. Let's put this in here. And then on the top, we need to fill out our information. So first of all, our API key from our ActiveCampaign account. So if you have an ActiveCampaign account, you would go over to settings, and under settings, we will click on developer. And then here we have our API key and our API URL. So this is some information that you don't want to expose to the open here. I have a demo account, so it should be fine. But we will just put this in here in order for ActiveCampaign, for the Cloud Functions to be able to execute this. And this will not be something that is shown outside of our Cloud Functions. So our URL, we'll enter our URL right here. So you just replace this. Be sure to still have the the quotation marks here at the beginning and the end. And then we need an event key and ActiveCampaign ID. So the ActiveCampaign ID is a bit tricky. For that, we'll go over to tracking right here. And the ActiveCampaign, when you see this little tracking code down here, although it belongs to the site tracking code, we can go ahead and we have here, this is the account ID that we can copy and put into our cloud function. So this is the ActiveCampaign ID. And then we need an event key. And this event key is something that you would have in the event tracking itself. So I have already enabled this. Normally it would be not enabled if you do this completely from scratch. So I'm going to enable this, and here we have our event key. So we put our event key now right here. Okay, so this is this for the index.js. Now let's go over to the package.json. So for the package.json, we have it inside of our GitHub repository as well. So go over there, and well, we can just copy this from here, go over and put this all in here. And that should be it. The only thing that are left to do is to export this function. So this is the function that we actually are going to call when we go to this endpoint. So that's why we need to put this as an entry point as well. Okay, so that should do it. Let's deploy this. This will actually take a little while here. So you see this indicator here. And then also the Cloud Build API is now enabled. So that should also build it correctly. And let's go back to ActiveCampaign here, and under our event tracking settings here, we can whitelist events. So only events that we have whitelisted are able to be tracked. So for example, if we wanted to send an event of add to cart, we will need to put this into our event here as well. Or if you wanted to have logins later on, or let's say submitted or clicked, that needs to be defined before we actually send in events. So we have these different events now whitelisted, so ActiveCampaign would be able to receive these events. Okay, back to our cloud function. It's now active and deployed. And when you see here unauthenticated, allow unauthenticated, that needs to be ticked, or that needs to be unauthenticated in order for it to work. We can go over to permissions here, and we can see who can actually invoke this function. It's already added. This is the all users access here that is already added. So this is all fine, and it should work. If you don't have that, you would need to set that up. Okay, so we're going to click on this, and this will give us our overview menu of how often something was invoked and if there were any errors here. You can also look into the logs if you have invoked this. So we haven't invoked this yet. Now what we would need is our cloud function URL actually. So I'm going to go and edit here again. This is our trigger URL. So this is what we would need. We will copy this, and I'm just going to call this right here just to see if it works. So this is now loading. Okay, it doesn't do anything because we haven't really attached any information to it. So for that, we need to go back to our GitHub repository here. Let me go back. And I have a little testing string down here. So this needs to actually be attached to the URL. This is the information that gets sent over to your URL, or to the endpoint that we have right here, which is now spinning because it doesn't have actually any information. Okay, I'm going to have, first of all, my URL. This is the URL, so I'm going to copy this. And then attached to that, I want to have my testing string. So again, I'm going to put this in. And don't worry if you don't see this black field or so. This is just an extension that I have installed, so I can show you this in the same browser tab. You could use any kind of WordPressing that you want. You could also open up a Google Doc in order to do this. So here's that information. And as it says in the GitHub, we need to now replace the event name, the event data, and the contact data with our dummy data that we want to test. So let's head back here to our contacts inside of ActiveCampaign, and we have one contact right here. Or let's actually create a new contact so we see this more clearly. I'm going to add a contact just put some test data in here. And yeah, let's go with test@test.com, the account. Do we need an account? We're just going to add this and add this to a list. This is our master contact list. Let's apply this. Okay. And then we're going to go over to this contact. And this contact now has an ID. So this is the contact ID. This is number 2 because it's our second contact. We can copy this and put this into our testing string. So the contact ID, replace this with the number 2. And then we have our event name and event data. Now, if you remember correctly, we have whitelisted some events. So we need to take one of these whitelisted events that we have in our event tracking code. So let's go with testing. This is our event name testing. So I'm gonna put this in the event name. And then we can send another data into this, so a property that describes this testing data. And let's go right here with just some random data, cloud function. So this is the data that should be taken up by our account and then sent into ActiveCampaign. So I'm going to put this all in here now and press enter. And we see event has been sent. So what we should see inside of our cloud function, and we just need to do this once, is that there was an invocation. There's none. Maybe that's not as real time as I thought. So let's go ahead and to the logs. Here it should be real time. Yeah. And here we get a lot of log data, what was actually sent over and which contact this was sent to. So for example, the email address and so on. Again, this will not be viewable by your user or by the person who sends this data in. This is just for you in your Google Cloud platform. So now inside of ActiveCampaign, if everything worked correctly, we should go into our contacts, and here we have our test contact. And here we see that our event was sent. The event was called testing, and the data that was sent over was cloud functions to exact that person right here. So our cloud function is now ready to operate, and we would need to implement it into Google Tag Manager. So this will be our next step.